Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Welcome to Take It from the Ironwoman. My name is Susanne Müller, your host and the Ironwoman. This podcast is about empowering yourself and others to make real changes in the world. You will hear from everyday, smart, sophisticated, hip people like you and me. Not everybody has to be an Ironwoman to impress the world. Together, we will learn from the sports and business leaders how you can become a more successful person as an entrepreneur or a leader. It's one step at a time, one day at a time. Take your steps now. Take your big steps now. Join me on this journey to success. Take it from the Ironwoman. Today we have a real special episode. Can you believe it has been 500 episodes? Yeah, celebration today. And we have a very special guest, Dr. Margaret. She's a teaching faculty of the Atlas Institute, College of Engineering and Applied Sciences, University of Colorado in Boulder. And we want to give thanks to Destiny, who connected us. She thought the two of you need to meet, and we know why. So, Dr. Annie, please give us a little intro of who you are, what you do, and then we dig a little deeper today.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And I also want to thank Destiny. Who I am, well, you gave some of it. I teach courses related to the impact of technologies, specifically social technologies, on culture and human well-being. I teach courses. One is called Neuro, which is related to nervous system health and the edges of human potential. And another one called Empathy and Technology, which is related to how our technologies are impacting our capacity for compassion with ourselves, with other people, the way the algorithms are driving polarization and division and all of that sort of thing, and thinking through where, I guess at the core of it, what I am really about is that our technological evolution is rapidly outpacing our own human and spiritual evolution. That gap between those two rates is kind of where I see myself. All the classes I teach, all the work that I do in the world is related to supporting us in closing that gap.
Because the Wisdom 2.0, where the technology is going so fast and the human are kind of like, oh, we need to catch up. Hold on, don't go so fast. So it's the empathy piece and the human-centered piece that's lacking. We need more of you. And how did you get into this?
Yeah, so I have a PhD in molecular biology and biochemistry from Northwestern University, fully credentialed up. Then I moved out to San Francisco to teach chemistry at San Francisco State. And while I was there, I had recently finished my PhD and I was sitting on my couch and I was trying to read a book for fun. And I realized I couldn't read. My eyes were kind of darting all over the page and I kept feeling this impulse to check my phone. This was 2014. There was less awareness around the addictive nature of smartphones and social media at the time. And so I thought, what is happening to me? I just spent 5 years reading very difficult things and really focused. And so I realized that this was happening to me, this distracted state. And I looked around at my students and saw it was happening to all of them and to my colleagues at the time. And I thought, I'm going to see what I can do about this or what I can figure out. So I did what I jokingly refer to as my unadvised postdoc. But after you finish graduate school, you go out and do a postdoc with a different advisor. I just did my own postdoc because I was concerned about this specific issue and started studying it and kind of uncovering the business models and all of the things going on behind the scenes that are causing these problems, and also beginning to research more positive psychology and the human side of these things and how those two, because there's often like, oh, the algorithm. But we also have our own negativity bias that was evolutionarily adaptive, our own availability bias that was evolutionarily adaptive. All these traits that we potentially evolved to survive in certain environments are now intermingling with the algorithm, and that pairing or the way that those overlap is what exacerbates the ill being that's being caused by these technologies.
The word ill-being makes us kind of fearful, and we're addicted, and an addiction is not easy to get rid of. Last year in January, I took a silent retreat, and I was like, oh, it's going to be interesting not having Facebook, Instagram. I did not miss it a second, and I was so proud of myself. After the silent retreat, I got into it again. I was like, oh, okay. But now in December, I got hacked and I was on my book tour, which I need my social media coverage. And then I said to myself, you know what? I cannot deal with this. I'm traveling. I could not change my password. It was just not possible. So I went under and I was 1 month without social media. And again, it was fantastic.
Excellent. How wonderful. Yeah. And it's interesting you say, well, first of all, wonderful and terrible. I'm sorry that happened.
Not easy to recreate it. That's the frustrating part at the moment.
And all the time you spent in generating that content.
That's why we have a content designer behind the scenes.
It's interesting you mentioned the 1 month interval, though. So in the work I currently do, we've designed and iterated on over years a program for folks that are having, I like to refer to it as excessive media consumption. Addiction is a pretty pathologizing word in our culture, at least currently. When I say excessive media consumption or social media addiction, I'm sort of referring to the same thing. And when I say addiction, I just mean levels of consumption that are preventing the person from living a thriving life. There's actually scales, psychological scales created for this that ask certain questions that could be related to any type of behavior, smoking, drinking, etc. But any type of compulsive behavior, they've now made a scale for social media and checking your phone. It's called the Bergen Social Media Addiction Scale. What we find in the work I do right now is that over the course of 5 weeks in our program, people who start in either the problematic or clinical levels of use, 100% of those people come down into the healthy range within 5 weeks. And the main reason I believe that this intervention works better or has higher efficacy than some others is because if I say to you right now, put your phone down, 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 stop being on your phone, you gotta stop being on your phone. All you're thinking about is being on your phone. It doesn't work very well. What we do in the program is we actually don't start with the phone at all. We start with meaning making and values that are directly derived from our lived experience. It's really simple. In the last 48 hours, in the last 2 weeks, when did you feel alive? When did you feel creative inspiration? When did you feel your life had meaning and purpose? And then they write vividly about those moments that made them feel really good, and then gradually reorient the attention toward the cultivation of more and more of that type of life experience. Then from that place, we begin to set intentions about cutting back the phone. Okay, so now that we know what we do want to be doing, what does make us feel good, okay, now let's look at the phone behavior. How is that impacting our ability to get to those good, quality, meaningful moments? And then from there, the types of goals and intentions people set also change a lot. Before they were saying, oh, I just want to get my TikTok time down. That's a very linear kind of Western thinking style masculine goal. Okay, I will set a timer and restrict myself to 30 minutes of TikTok and brr. We see those types of goals changing into things like, I want to post more about my art and unfollow all of the accounts that make me feel bad about myself. Now it's not this strict, restrictive kind of thing. It's cultivating the skill of noticing how our media consumption is making us feel. And I realize this is a long monologue, but I'll just add one more thing. When we notice how it's making us feel and slow down, that's a huge part of it. We're all moving at hyperspeed. So you have to slow down a little to even notice. And the metaphor I like to use is food. This is another reason why it has to, at least to some degree, be an individualized approach. Because for some folks, if we think about food as the metaphor, some people can eat gluten. I can eat gluten, pretty much feel fine. And other people, It's really a serious issue. Same thing for dairy or coffee or whatever. The same is true with our media consumption. Some people can watch the news for a little while and then forget about it and move on with their life, and they don't stay in that feeling of anxiety or depression all day long. Other people, if they're watching the news first thing in the morning, their whole day is ruined. It really has to be this gradual process of cultivating that skill of noticing, and then from that place, making new intentional choices about the type of media we are allowing to captivate our sacred and precious attention, because it shapes us. And people want to say, oh, it doesn't bother me. This is a fun fact I love to share, is that when people watch videos about really intense conspiracy theorists for as short as 2 minutes, they lose their faith in humanity. If you give them a survey after that, oh my God. And so people say, oh, I'm not really taking it in. It doesn't really affect me. There've been studies done on this. Yes, as little as 2 minutes of that kind of negative content. And then they do other studies with people looking at certain types of content, and then action-based studies. So they're in a pretend experiment and the researcher drops their pen and they see, are people going to help them reach over and pick up the pen? It depends what content they were watching right before they dropped the pen.
Oh,
This has real world impacts in the way
yeah.
we grow up. It's really been a blessing to be able to do this kind of work and help so far hundreds of people get to a better place where the media they're consuming is helping them feel they're living a meaningful and values aligned life. I'm really grateful to be able to do that kind of work.
I'm learning so much just listening to you. And I like what you say is adding value. It's positive, right? We're telling you cannot be on social media anymore, or you cannot watch the news. In a way, we want to know what's happening. We want to educate ourselves, but we need to monitor the consumption of it. And it depends on the people. Like, as you said, some people, they get disturbed by the news. The news is not really what is happening now. It's already in the past. So why are you focusing so much on the past? Let's be in the present moment or look into the future. So it's kind of how I assess it. But for myself, I use social media in a way because I'm working from home. Everything is online. And sometimes I say that's my contact to the outer world, where I see how people are crocheting or what the fashion is. But I also have to say I have been unfollowing things that don't feel good to me. That's kind of like my conscious consumption. But I'm also a running coach and I've run many marathons. So I say, if you can scroll for 30 minutes, why don't you go outside? Everybody has those 30 minutes.
We've done large amounts of data analysis on the 600 plus at this point, 700, 800, I don't know, I lost count, hundreds of people who've gone through this program. And the one thing we find that is the most dramatic indicator of success is having a goal oriented toward the real world. So something like, I want to be the kind of person who paints every day or even once a week, or I want to be the kind of person who plays my guitar when I get home from work instead of scrolling, or I want to be the kind of person who reads books. I want to be a person who reads. And then there's kind of an identity shift too that happens. No, I'm not the kind of person who goes on my phone until 2 a.m. I'm the kind of person who reads a book and goes to sleep. And it's no value judgment, right or wrong. It's that they've decided for themselves, this real world behavior change is what I want to be doing. This is what's going to make me feel good. And then one other thing to the doing things that you were describing, something I teach in my classes and that I think is a useful framework for thinking about media consumption is thinking about our awareness or perception as having 3 different axes. Perceiving, that's just all the information we're taking in. Sense making, can I make sense of what's happening here? And action. In our current media environment, if we think about those 3 axes as something that could be balanced, perception, sense making, action, most people are drowning in a sea of perception. And then we wonder why we all feel disempowered to take action, or in your case, as a running coach, for people to be able to go running. Of course, you don't feel motivated to do that because you're so depleted from having so much perception and even of what you're perceiving. I have students do this little activity in class where I say, okay, get out your favorite platform and we're going to just scroll for 5 minutes in class. And I make them sit there and do it. At the end, I say, okay, what did you see?
Nothing.
Sometimes they'll remember one really funny one that they can speak to, but for the most part, they don't even know. But this constant perception leaves us with such little bandwidth for action that it's no wonder. And also when I speak about this, it's really important to me. People have heard me say this. No, I say it every time. But the onus of responsibility lies on the business models of these companies who design their platforms to intentionally be addictive and extract your attention for their bottom line with no concern for your well-being. It's important to me to say that because I often speak to the humans making the change because that's where I'm not a policymaker. That's where my expertise lies. When I'm saying these things about changing our behavior, I want to be clear that I'm not saying and therefore the onus of responsibility is on the individual user. Absolutely not. It's on the companies. They made their choices. But it's up to us to live meaningful lives despite the media environment we exist in.
We cannot change everything. Curious to find out, so you did a lot of studies. Do you see any difference in generations?
It's great that you asked. So I tried to move into folks younger than 18. But the red tape around doing research with minors really demotivated me from that work. I got a little bit done, but not enough data collection because you can work with young people, but when you start wanting to collect data on them, there becomes a large barrier there. And so I don't have a lot of data on that. And we are just moving. I have a student on board for this coming academic year who is going to facilitate our program with 40 to 80-year-olds. We haven't done before, so that will be interesting to see. Most of all the data I have is kind of 18 to 25-ish college student aged because that's who I have access to.
Because as an executive coach, I read some statistic that actually the population 35 and under, they're okay to talk to a bot as a coach. And then 35 and up prefer to have a human interaction. And my interpretation, obviously it's not scientific, but what I'm thinking is once you hit that 35 and up, you get into a managerial position and you might have to lead a team. You need to talk, you have to manage up and manage down and sideways. So that's when you need a little more than just like a bot answer. Is this right or is this wrong? So that's why I was interested in hearing if there is a generational difference. But that obviously that research will be interesting.
I think your explanation could have some truth in it, and it could also be related to digital natives or not. 35 and up are those of us who didn't grow up during our formative adolescent years with comfort speaking to bots, and folks younger than that at this point have all kind of grown up with this technology. Some of the comfort could also be related to that. Was this part of my world during my formative years or not? I don't know.
Tell us about your class. You're teaching at Coursera. This is coming out.
Oh, yay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we are launching a Coursera course that's related to this topic. We will be going through the social media, developing values-aligned media consumption, sort of that I was just describing. And then there's a second component that is related to nervous system regulation and the cultivation of intuition and trusting that intuition. And then there's a third module that is around empathy and compassion and understanding our evolution as social primates and what that means for the way we interact in digital versus physical spaces and the cultivation of essentially social skills with a more interesting angle than just saying, oh, we're developing social skills, but it's actually more the evolutionary psychology behind how we are wired for connection. We cannot get our needs for that met through social media only. Social media can support it. I'm not a hater. I'm not saying everybody quit. I'm on it. So that's the course we're putting out. And I'm really excited about it because I've been doing in all of my classes for 7 years. And I'm just pulling the highlight reel. And so at the end of the year, every year I give students an assignment called the Final Four. And the Final Four is what are the 4 things that they thought were the most impactful from the class, and how are they going to apply them to their life in the future? Throughout the years, I've been able to curate what are the things that resonate with people most. Now I'm putting all of that highlight reel stuff into one class that will be released, I think, in September, maybe October.
We can't wait. Final 4. What are your final 4?
Oh, wow. What are my final 4? Well, I don't know off the top of my head because I was mentioning earlier, my mind is not very linear. So rank ordering is hard for me.
We can have more than 4.
Yeah, I can say some of the ones that come to the front of my mind immediately. Empathy and technology, we talk about the origin story of chimpanzees versus bonobos. Are you familiar with this?
Not so much.
Essentially, we've had the chimpanzee as the model organism of where human beings evolved from for a very long time. Hundreds of years at this point, we've understood that we are evolved from chimpanzees. Chimpanzees are aggressive, violent, etc. But when you look at the actual evolutionary fork, we are equally related genetically and evolutionarily in time to bonobos. We've only known about that since about the 70s. And bonobos are loving and kind. Well, I don't know. I may be anthropomorphizing a bit, but let me say they are run maternally. They don't perform raids on other bonobos. They have a term called xenophilic, which means if a new bonobo comes into the group, they want to share their resources. They're pro-sharing. I love this story because I think it illustrates like what takes over our mindset based on the origin stories we believe about ourselves. The question I wonder is how different would humanity be if we had believed instead of we come from chimpanzees that are patriarchal and aggressive and fight incomers and all of these things, if we had believed for the last 300 years that we've come from bonobos. That's one of an example of the kind of anecdotes that end up in people's final 4. Oh, another one that people love is social comparison theory, which again comes from the idea that we are social primates. We're primed to understand where we fall in the social hierarchy because that had a lot of value to us evolutionarily. When I teach that to college students, I often find they are very relieved that there is a name and a theory ascribed to something they feel viscerally and experience through social media all the time. This constant upward and downward comparison. Are they better than me? Am I better? Blah, 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 blah. And that kind of gets into supremacy culture too of this. I don't necessarily mean like white supremacists. I just mean this idea that people are better than other people based on any criteria. These are some examples of the ones I think kind of come to mind first. I'm sure after the recording, I'll wish I'd said different ones.
Okay. Thank you so much for giving us so many insights into a topic that is relevant, and we want to celebrate that also on our 500th episode. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
What are you taking away from this fantastic conversation and 500 episodes? Let's celebrate together. Thank you, Dr. Annie, for all the insights, learning that we can take away from here. And there's a lot of work ahead of us. Take it from the Ironwoman. We have episodes every Monday. Come and join us, learn with others, learn from others, experience different things that you are not exposed to today. And Take It From the Ironwoman is also the book Global Business Coaching with Sports Parallels. Download it or get it in your local bookstore, but also like and subscribe to our podcast. You can find it on the platform where you're listening to this podcast now. Thank you for your support, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.